Hello, everyone. Welcome into the Arrowhead Addict podcast. I am Matt Verderame at a unique time. Normally, we do this on a Monday, but I was driving back from Kansas City from our live show, which was awesome. Hope you were there. If you were, hope you enjoyed it. I was meeting everybody. So this week's a little wonky in terms of scheduling because of that, but I am here to get the job done on this Wednesday afternoon. We're not streaming this at the same time on Twitter. Just going to be straight up on Arrowhead Addict podcast. So I'll take your questions for anywhere between a half hour and an hour, depending on how many questions we have. And we'll go from there. Sterling Holmes doing God's work yesterday, doing a mailbag as well. So maybe a little light today. We will see. But a couple of thoughts real quick, then I'll get into the questions. Look, Chiefs come off a win against Denver. A very weird game. 27-0. You end up winning 34-28. I think there's a little revisionist history when these people say, well, they were never in any danger of losing the game. Yeah, they were. Yes, they were. In the third quarter, they were. Did I think they would lose? No. But were they in danger of it? When the other team has the ball and they can take the lead, you're in danger of it. Now the Chiefs move forward. Might be getting Kadarius Toney back this week. Might be getting Mecole Hardman back this week. He is now back at practice. The whole team is practicing. No injury updates from Andy Reid on Wednesday afternoon, which is great. So I think for the Chiefs, look, health-wise, you're in phenomenal shape, which is really what matters this time of year, along with, of course, your record. And they're 10-3. They're in phenomenal shape there as well. Bottom line, the Chiefs are in good position. They clinched the AFC West with a win this weekend. They also would clinch at least the top 3 seed, because Tennessee is 3 back of the Chiefs, and the Chiefs beat them. So not only would the Chiefs clinch the AFC West, they would clinch at least, at the worst, being a 1, 2, or a 3 in the AFC. They play a Houston Texans team this week that is terrible. There is no other way to say it, and they are going to play multiple quarterbacks in this game. Jeff Driscoll and Davis Mills. Neither is good. Mills probably better than Driscoll, but both are terrible. No Dameon Pierce, who's been their star rookie running back. He's got an ankle sprain. He's out. We'll see if Brandon Cooks plays. We'll see if Derek Stingley plays. I mean, the Texans are bad when they're healthy, and they're not healthy. If there's ever a game where the Chiefs just run away and hide, this is it. If the Chiefs can't blow this team out, seriously, there's something wrong. I mean, the Texans are a train wreck of a football team at this point in time. All right. So I'll leave it at that. Let's get into the questions. Patrick Mahomes, maybe Mahomes incognito. Why do people say Hurts over Mahomes? Pat is first in 3 quarterback stats. I'm assuming you're talking about passing yardage, QBR, and passing touchdowns. Look, if I had a vote, I would vote for Mahomes, and not because I'm a Chiefs fan, but because I honestly think he's the most valuable player in the league. Jalen Hurts is terrific. He's had a really good year, and he's a great runner of the ball as well. You got to factor in all that. His job is exponentially easier. I mean, let's just be honest. Philadelphia's got a better roster than the Chiefs. It really isn't even. I won't say it's not close. It's close, but the Philadelphia's got a better roster. Hurts is not asked to do anywhere near as much as Mahomes is asked to do. Okay, if you took Derek Carr, who I think is actually slightly above average, put him on the Eagles, I don't know if they're 12-1. They're probably like 10-3, 11-2. If you put Derek Carr and put him on the Chiefs, I think they're a playoff team. They're probably like winning 7 or 8 at this point. They're probably fighting like hell with the Chargers for the division. You put Mahomes on the Chiefs, and they're a Super Bowl favorite, right? So I'm with you. Like, I think the reason people want Hurts is 2 reasons. One, it's a narrative-based thing, and Mahomes has already won, and Hurts is exciting, and so on and so forth. The other reason is they've won 12 games. I do not believe that's a reason to pick a quarterback over another quarterback when the other quarterback's also won 10 and is a number 2 seed in the conference. It's like, Jesus, some BS team. So I'm with you. I would put Mahomes in. I think he deserves to be the MVP. But for the record, I think he will be the MVP. I do. I think this is one of these like things where like a guy jumps up for a week. I think Mahomes will be the MVP. Daniel, do you think something happened between KC and Tyreek that is causing Tyreek to take shots at the Chiefs? Yeah, they didn't pay. Yeah. I thought they parted ways on good terms. I mean, I think, look, Tyreek is Let me say this. I don't know Tyreek Hill personally. I have interviewed him in the past, Super Bowls and stuff. But I don't have any, like, I'm not shooting a text to Tyreek Hill. But based on what he said in not only the most recent conversation with Shannon Sharp, but in other conversations, um, and then just based on, what I do know about that situation from just talking to people in the league close to that situation, I would say that I think it became a thing where, look, he clearly wanted to sign to stay in Kansas City. The Chiefs didn't offer him what he thought was fair, and the Dolphins offered him the moon. And I think by getting offered that somewhere else, it was like, well, see, I was right, and I deserve that money. And by the way, he has every reason to feel that way. He's been great in Miami. And the Chiefs have every reason to say we were right too, because we have the number one offense in football, and we didn't need you. Now, look, I would say there's shades of truth to both sides of it. Hill is absolutely worth being paid the highest amount of money in the NFL for a receiver. And the Chiefs were understandable in their position of saying, we are not going to pay a receiver $30 million a year when we have Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, and we got to fix a bunch of stuff on the defense. I don't think they were wrong. I don't think either side's wrong. I would say with Tyreek, the one thing I would say is I think it is time to just move on, man. Like, it's over. You got paid. You're on a good team. You're putting up great numbers. Move on. But I think it probably bothered him that Mahomes got paid and Kelce got paid and he didn't. But by the way, and I've said this 100 times, I've reported this, the Chiefs were going to pay him a fortune. They just weren't going to pay him what Miami was going to pay him. And it would have been fine, and it all would have gone well and good until Davante Adams got traded and then signed that extension. It blew up all their negotiations. If that doesn't happen, if Davante Adams, if that trade happens 2 weeks later, Tyreek Hill's in Kansas City. That's the way it goes. But I think it's worked out for everybody. Tyreek's having an unbelievable season, and the Chiefs are 10-3 and have the best offense in football. Everybody's happy. Should be anyway. All right. Jim says we have the best record against current playoff teams, 5-2. Explain if that makes you feel better about our playoff chances. It doesn't change the way I feel. Like, and I think when they get in the playoffs, a lot of the BS with the Chiefs will go away. They're not going to have these quarters and halves where they're just totally asleep at the wheel because they don't care, because they're just waiting to get to January. Like, they'll be in January. That's one of my biggest problems with the way the Chiefs are sometimes is I think, like, I honestly think that Denver game, they got up 27-0, and they were just like, screw it. Game's over. Who cares? I think Pat made some throws he doesn't make if the score's within 10 points. I think defensively they let off the game. Like, they get bored. They do. I don't even think there's an argument against that. Now, that's not acceptable. I'm not condoning it, but I'm just saying I think that is absolutely what happens with them. They get bored. They don't care. They feel like we're going to win the damn game anyway. What does it matter? Like, I look at that Raiders game earlier this year. They got down 17-0. They were like playing coma ball for a quarter and a half. And then they came back and scored 30 points. It didn't matter. But they know that it will turn it on. I do think a lot of that goes away in the playoffs, which is why I'm confident in them, because when they play the Bills, they play the Bengals, those teams will have their attention. That doesn't mean the Chiefs are going to win the game. They may not. My biggest concern with the Chiefs are the turnovers. The turnovers, they've got to stop. That is something that will kill them in the playoffs. I promise you that will kill them in the playoffs if they do it. They're not going to have one of these games are -2, -3 in the turnover differential when they will lose. And they will probably get their asses kicked. Like, you just can't play like that in a playoff game. I don't care how talented you are. Because as much as the Chiefs are talented, the Bengals and the Bills also really talented. And by the way, Dolphins talented enough. Titans, Ravens, all those teams, the Chargers, all those teams are talented enough that if you turn the ball over a lot, you're going home. Favorite thing I ate in KC? Joe's, the old gas station Joe's. Oh, my God. Look, Char Bar was amazing. Q39 was amazing. But, man, that lunch that we had at Joe's on Saturday, man, the burn ends were just, they melt in your mouth. Get the Z-Man, of course. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Latrell, hypothetically in the offseason, what would KC need to trade Brown or other Brown Jr.? Yeah, Athletic has the Bears a potential landing spot if Brown's a free agent. I don't think he's going to get the free agent. I think they'll tag him. I think they're going to tag him. I think as much as he's been up and down this year, he's too valuable as a left tackle. Just let him walk out the door for nothing. What would they need? they need an answer behind him, man. Like, they're not just going to trade him and have, like, me play left tackle next year. So I think they have to draft a tackle. It's a hard one. It's a hard one. If they had that in place, what would it take? Probably a second round pick. I mean, that's essentially value-wise what they got him for. Probably a second. And maybe if it's a high pick, maybe then you balance it and you give back a fifth or something. But I think it'd probably take a second round pick. All right, Ronald says, do you think having Tony and Hardman healthy for the last stretch into the playoffs will change how Mahomes can attack mixed zones like Bengals and Titans? Who give him a harder time with it? It's a good question. I think having speed like that, it always changes the way you can attack a team because the Chiefs can now attack you horizontally as well as vertically in terms of making you move out of a certain zone because of that speed. So I would say, yeah. I think some of those guys like that, it does matter. I think the biggest difference they make is they on one touch could go a huge distance. Smith-Schuster and Kelsey is great. As great as Kelsey is very, as very good as Smith-Schuster is. They're not burner. Like they're not going to just, break off a 70-yarder, right? MVS can, but Hardman and Tony, and frankly, especially Tony, are the kind of guys like they could have something where it's just you hit him with you hit Tony on a slant and he's gone. Like he breaks a tackle and he's 75 yards down the field. Or Hardman gets a little bubble screen, he gets a little bit of space, and it's a 50-yard play. Like I think that's the biggest difference with those guys is they can take a simple, innocent play and turn it into a huge gain. And that's where I think they've missed those guys the last couple of weeks. They don't have those guys in the field right now. Mighty, I appreciate this comment already. Texans are terrible. Put me up for a 17-10 win. You feel like it, don't you? Like it's just, I could absolutely see a game where the Chiefs, kind of similar to the Denver game, just roll Houston early. And it's like 24-0, 20 minutes into the game. Sound familiar, by the way, when you play the Texans? And then at some point, it's like 24-16, and you're sweating it out. And then like they tack on a touchdown. Like, I absolutely see a game like that. I got to be honest. I don't know why I feel this way about this game. I was nervous all week about the Denver game. And I said that. I thought it would be a close game. I thought the Chiefs would slog through it. I could be wrong. I could definitely be wrong. I don't by no means gamble on this. I have a feeling the Chiefs are going to pace them pretty good. I don't know why I feel that way. I just do. It just kind of strikes me as a game where the Texans are just so dead. They're just going to roll over. And I can see the Chiefs just really whipping up on them pretty good. But would I be shocked if it's a one-score game with 10 minutes left? Nope. No, I wouldn't. Kyle says, Chiefs aren't great with the lead. With the lead, Andy is trying not to lose the game. With the lead, he's trying to win the game. Pacheco and McKinnon is like having Hunt and Damien at the same time. You know what? Look, I'm actually going to go off the running back thing a little bit more real quick. I love the combination right now. I love their combination of backs. They're different guys. They're different styles. They do different things. They've got to get Pacheco more involved. Pacheco's really good. He's really good. Vision, ability to cut, his balance. Isaiah Pacheco can play. Like that kid, if they give him opportunities, that kid is going to have some years. He's a 1,000-yard plus rusher. I didn't even see him making like a Pro Bowl. He is a really good young player. Excuse me. And McKinnon, look, I love his game. Always have. Great blocker. Can catch the ball. He can give you something with his legs on the ground too. They complement each other really well. Like there's no reason to see a third back right now. I firmly believe that. Mighty says, Mahomes is a better QB by a country mile, but he has not helped himself in the past 3 weeks. Talking about him and Hurts, I'm assuming. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, look, I don't know if I'd say the last 3 weeks, that's right, because the Chargers came 4 weeks ago. Yeah, he was home against the Rams. He had the dumb pick in the end zone. The Bengals game, I actually thought for the most part, to be fair to him, I actually played really well in that Bengals game. I mean, you're right, he didn't help himself in the sense they lost, but like, I don't know what else he could have done. I mean, he actually, I thought, played really well. They, excuse me again, apologies. They just, what we, if you're Mahomes, like, what can you do about Kelsey fumbling the ball and the defense just being an absolute sieve all the time? I don't know. But I hear you. Your point's well taken, man. You're not wrong. Ronald, do you see our safeties possibly improving with their tackling with 4 games left this season so we can be less leaky in the playoffs? Ronald, I got to tell you, you know what would be a great start is if the safeties realized that they were allowed to tackle with their arms. It's like watching mannequins who had like their arms pulled off, like the torso, go out there and try to tackle somebody. And I'll be fair, Reed has, for the most part, in my opinion, this year been a decent tackler. Not all the time, but sometimes. I feel like he's been average, like an average tackler. Thornhill had, I thought, his best game tackling wise against Denver. He actually did a really nice job, but yeah, he's had some games this year. Woof. I mean, they can't tackle at all. I don't anticipate them getting any better at it. I mean, I don't know, why. Like, what's going to change now? I hope they do, but I don't see them. To me, there's no reason to go, oh yeah, now they're going to figure it out. Now they're going to get it. I mean, for what? Why? I mean, 13 games into the season, and frankly, Juan Thornhill's never been a good tackler. He does a lot of other things well. He's very good at ranging and playing the ball, and there's a lot to like about Juan Thornhill. Tackling is not one of those things. Never had, and it never has been. Never has been. All right. I noticed a lot of subs starting in the second half. Wondering if that had to do with the bad play in the later quarters. They were rotating a lot of guys in. I honestly, man, Rex, I think that was just because, frankly, Mahomes throws 2 really bad picks at the end of the first half. One of which gives Joel a lot of credit. He made a great play. The one to Surtain never should have been thrown. But guys, I will say this. I said this on the podcast right after the game. Does the defense know it's allowed to get a stop after the Chiefs turn the ball over? Like, everyone acts like, well, they threw 2 picks, and the Broncos got 2 scores off that. It's like, yeah, okay. Can Mahomes ever get bailed out once by this team? Like, can the defense get off the fucking field? I mean, you have to let them go 60 yards. They're the worst offense in football. 3 and out, get off the field. And the Chiefs in that game just could never do that. It was like you had to white knuckle it to death because the Chiefs can't get off the field. And they don't. It's like at one point in the game, like they just had figured out that Jerry Jeudy was the only good player on the team. Like, I don't understand why they are the way they are defensively. I honestly don't. I think part of it's scheme, part of it's execution, whatever. But man, it is at times fine. At times they're pretty good defensively. And other times that is the biggest wild card for me. Which defense is showing up in the playoffs? Is it going to be the defense it's shown up, to be fair, at times, even against good teams like Buffalo, where you're like, okay, pretty good effort? Or is it going to be one of these things where it's like, oh my God, they can't force a punt? Who the hell knows? I don't think they know. Mercurial asking, is the issue with this team coaching? They have not adapted to the youth we have, but we are so undisciplined. It's what will end our season if it continues. Yeah, I totally agree, man. Like, it will end their season if it continues. Because I'm telling you right now, they end up -1, -2, -3 in the turnover differential against these teams in the AFC playoffs. Yeah, they're getting their ass beat. They're going home. They're going home. I think some of the issues coaching, yeah, definitely. Look, I hate the way they kept putting Sky Moore back there. I'm fine with him muffing 1 punt. You want to put him back there? Okay, fine. After the second one, it's enough. I mean, that went on and on and on. I mean, at some point here, my God, man, figure it out and put somebody else back there. And then on defense, I mean, it's well documented how I feel about Reed and Spagnuolo. I think they're both very good coaches, but I think on Sundays they can be very stubborn with the way they want to play. Reed even more so. I think Spagnuolo, for the most part this year, has done a pretty good job adjusting at halftime, but it feels like they go into these games defensively almost like they want to see what their team's going to do. And it's like, Steve, just have a plan for what they're going to do to start the game. I know you're not going to be right every time. Teams throw curveballs at you, whatever. But, like, sometimes, man alive, like, have a plan and not, like, wait to see. It always feels like the Chiefs counterpunch on defense. Punch them first for once. Offensively, look, Andy Reid is one of the best offensive minds in NFL history. My problem with Andy has been and will probably always be there are times where it is very obvious that they need to adjust a certain thing, and he just does not want to do it. I thought against Denver, the amount of times they threw the ball when they were leading by multiple scores was insane. It's just insane. But that's the way he is. He doesn't want to change. So I do think there's a little bit of the coaching for sure. All right, Mighty. All I will say about Hill is that I won't be sympathetic for him if we boot him and the Dolphins in the playoffs. I think you and about 80 other thousand people at Arrowhead. Tom, so if you could say there was one thing that would prevent us from making the Super Bowl, what would it be? Special teams, not being able to adjust defensively for the half, Reed not running the ball. I mean, put your hands together, Thomas. All those things. But guys, I'll go back to it. I'll say it again. The turnovers. It's going to kill them. If they don't stop doing it, it's going to kill them. Because all those other things, I think special teams have kind of figured it out at this point. I think they've rectified the return stuff. Butker, I think, is getting healthy. Like, he doesn't look perfect yet, but he looks better. Like, I think they're going to be okay on special teams. The defensive thing might be, I mean, I just talked about it. That's a problem. But the turnovers are the thing that scares the hell out of me. Because defensively, I think at least offensively, they can bail that out for most weeks. Turnovers are that's the death of this team, man. It is the death of this team. I mean, look, let's be honest. They've lost 3 games this year. Why'd they lose all 3 of those games? Why'd they lose all 3 of them? Turnovers. Why they lost a game. All right, let's see. Luttrell and Nate Taylor had a good interview. Nate's a great guy. Really good friend. I was unfortunately couldn't make it work to see him when I was out in KC. We tried to. Nate's a great dude. He said there probably is not a regular season opponent remaining that will keep the team interested for a full 6. Yeah, probably not. No, I agree. I just happen to think the Texans are so brutal that, like, I could see the Chiefs just not even really giving a shit, winning by 20 points. Did you see Cheffers is already practicing the mirror throwing a terrible roughing the passer flag on Chris Jones? Yeah, he's the ref for the Chiefs-Texans game, so buckle up, everybody. There's going to be about 27 penalties in this game. I can't stand when guys like that officiate games. Look, and I'm not even singling out Cheffers. It's just, I'm not a big believer in like guys making it about themselves, but these guys, there's all this ticky-tack crap. Look, man, just let them play football. If it's obvious, call it. If it's not obvious, leave it the hell alone. Lee says, do you see MVS and KC next year? I feel like as though drops are still an issue for him. Yeah, I think he's back. You're paying him $10 million a year. And realistically speaking, guys, when you look at the market, the wide receiver market, he's worth that money. It's not a bad contract. It really isn't. Has he been great this year? No, but he hasn't been bad either. Like, I think, sometimes I think people's expectations just run wild. I mean, if you look at Valdez-Scantling this season, okay, he stayed healthy, which is first and foremost. I believe he's played every game this year, right? Every game. He has 606 yards. Like, to me, that's fine. I mean, if you look at his career, the most he's ever had in a season, 690. He's going to eclipse that. He's going to have a career year for them. He only has 1 touchdown. Okay, fine. He's coming. He's supposed to be the big play threat, right? The guy who has the big average per reception. Well, guess what? He's averaging 17.8 yards per reception, which is second in his career. His receiving total high for receptions is 38. He's at 34. Like, he's going to have a career year other than touchdowns across the board. I have no problem with the way he's played for them this year. None. He's been exactly what they expected him to be. Then you have Juju's at 762. He might very well hit 1,000 yards, even though he missed a game. And Kelsey, of course, is Kelsey. But no, I have no problem with the way he's played. And I do think, yes, he'll be back. Okay. Let me see. Let me make sure I'm not missing anybody here. Deborah. Hey, Deborah. How bad is his defense in your own words? I don't see any way around the fact that we are bottom tier, statistically bottom in every defensive category. At some point, the numbers are the numbers. Yeah, look, I think they are below average. I don't think they're terrible, although they've been terrible the last 2 weeks. The reason I say that is sometimes the one thing with numbers that can get a little misconstrued is the Chiefs play in a way that teams have to be ultra aggressive on offense because otherwise the Chiefs just blow them out. Like, I said that going into this game last week against Denver. I said, I wonder with Denver, like, look, I'm not doubting they have a good defense, but do they have a defense that's like unbelievably good, like their numbers suggest? I don't think they do. It's just that nobody ever has to be aggressive against Denver because they know if they score 10 points, they're going to win. Well, in this game, the Chiefs went aggressively against Denver, and they lit up their defense. I mean, the Chiefs just went up and down the field on them for 234 points. I know one of the scores was defensive. So I think part of it is, like, for an example, I'll give you an example. Okay, so the Buccaneers game. You look at that game and go, wow, they gave up 31 points. That's terrible against Tampa. But, like, Tampa Bay threw the ball every play but 3 downs. They were down 21-3 immediately. They were down 3 scores the whole game. You're going to give up a bunch of yardage and points. You just are, because it doesn't matter, because you're killing their team. You're trading it for time. The Cardinals earlier this year, they scored 21 points. You're like, that's a pretty decent day if you look at just the box score. They scored 7 points till there was 10 minutes left, and they were down to 30 points. So I'm not, listen, I by no means am I going to bail them out, but I would say the Chiefs are below it. I would say the Chiefs are anywhere from like 17th to like 20th, 21st in the league defensively. They're not good, but they're not terrible. I would say they're slightly below average. It's honestly how I feel about them. But they are trending in the wrong direction the last 2 weeks. Unknown. So some people believe the only way to improve this defense for the future is to trade Chris Jones for picks. Do you agree with that philosophy? Let me state this right now. I cannot disagree with that statement more. People who want to trade Chris Jones should seek help. If you trade Chris Jones off this defense, you want to see them really suck, trade Chris Jones and watch what happens. That guy is walking into the Hall of Fame if he has 3 or 4 more years like this. Maybe even like 2 or 3 more years like this. He's, other than Aaron Donald, the best defensive tackle of his era. You're trading that guy? At the peak of his powers, you're trading that guy. People that say stuff like that, man, I'll never get it. I will never get it. People that do that just love the draft. And it's like this constant fantasy world that they live in. Like, well, what if we trade so-and-so for 8 picks? That's great. You're going to spend the next decade trying to find the next Chris Jones. Have fun with that. Those people to me are absolutely nuts. I'll never understand that thought process. Mighty, do we start looking for other defensive coordinators after the season? Get back to me after the playoffs. I probably defend Spags more than most, but I will say I think he's done a bad job this year. I think he's done a bad job this season. If there was if Fangio or Ryan were out there and interested, I'd make a call. I'd at least make a call. I don't know if I'd make a move, I'd make a call. Because I feel like I do think Spagnuolo on the whole is a good coordinator. I honestly do. But this year, I think he's terrified to really lean on the youth, and he has to, and it's just a bad mix right now. They've got to lean on these kids. These kids are the reason this defense could be good, but he's terrified to do it. And if he doesn't do it, it's going to be a big problem in January. Charles says, even if they couldn't work out a new contract for Jones, I would think they would franchise him as long as they can. He would be a good value at the time. Yeah, and he's still signed for 2 more years. He's not going anywhere. Guys, I'd be floored. I would be floored. If they traded him for anything less than like a multiple first-round picks, it'd be out of their minds. And I'll tell you this too, like they love Chris Jones. Like not just the player, but the human being, the leader, the guy in the room. They love Chris Jones. I would be floored if Chiefs traded him. And boy, I'll tell you, you'd get an all-time rant on this podcast. If they ever traded Chris Jones, I would go insane. I mean, that team, the last thing they need is less talent on defense. Elben says, I'm so worried about the defense. You and everybody else in Kansas City. James, my thoughts on the Chiefs going into the playoffs. They don't get the number 1 seed. They get knocked out in the second round after another coaching failure. They abandon the run game for no reason. Well, that's certainly possible. That is certainly possible, man. Yeah, look, they when the Chiefs play their best, I think they're the best team in football. But they don't play their best very often because they make too many mistakes. And we'll see if they clean them up. Daniel, do you think that not having an emotional leader in defense is hurting them? I feel like if anything bad happens and they fold, the only person who seems to have that passion is Willie K. Yeah, you know what? Chris Jones, he's a leader more than people realize. He is. But I get your point. I actually said to somebody the other day that is one thing I've noticed with them. If things are going well defensively for them, they can build off it and have a pretty good game. But when things go badly for them, like they have this tendency to just go in the tank for like stretches of the game. They're pretty good about regrouping at halftime, but they have stretches. Like they'll have like a 3-drive stretch where they just completely fall apart. The playoffs, that's 21 points. So yeah, I think they just need some time to just kind of pick themselves up by the bootstraps a little bit. All right, let's see. Graham, greetings from Scotland. Hey, man. Do you think the D is overachieved in 2022? No, I don't. I think it's underachieved. I don't think it's underachieved horribly because they're so young, but I think they should be like somewhere between like 11 and 14. I'd place him somewhere between 17 and 21. So I think they slightly underachieved. I think they should be better than they are. I do. Mighty suspect Nolo should not be in the same sentence as the words "good job." I am a strong advocate for sacking him. He is clearly out of touch with modern football. Look, man, I wouldn't say he did a good job this year. In fact, I just said I think he's done a bad job this year. But I think overall, like I think he's a good coordinator who does not like to play youth, who does not trust his youth. And the problem is, this is a defense with a ton of youth. If they don't change defensively the last month of the season, and they go in the playoffs and they get bombed and they lose some playoff games, they have 38 points, I have no problem if they fire him. I don't think they will, but I would understand it if they did, and I would certainly understand fans who want him out the door. I get it. Jay says, Andy is so predictable. Everyone in the USA knows he won't run the football. Every time we blow a team out, it was a balanced attack. Hey, Jay, listen, obviously, I'm sure you listen to this podcast. I agree with you. I don't even have anything to add because you've heard me say it 100 times this year. Yep. Have balance. We'll win. Let's see. Shane says, with the Chargers being in cap space hell this coming off season and having to still pay Herbert, do you think Bosa's a cap casualty? And if so, do the Chiefs make a run for him if he's cut? I don't think he's cap casualty. No. He's got too much money left on that deal, and he's great when he's healthy. I think the more likely scenario is the Chargers are just pretty much what they are at this point. The Chargers. So I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole here because you got to get to their questions. But if you look at the Chargers next season, so over the cap, which is a great website, they project the cap at about 225. People I speak to think that might be right at the high side of it. It might be around 220-ish, somewhere in there. The Chargers are already at the 225 figure. They're $7 million over the cap. Okay. And they only have 39 players signed next year. So the Chargers have a problem. Now, look, if you look at Bosa, by the way, just so you know, if they were to cut him, they would actually owe $7 extra million against caps. He's not going anywhere. I think it's most likely like Michael Davis might be a cap casualty. The corner, they'd save $7.4 million basically just to get the square. With Mac, you wonder if they extend. He's at 27.4. Would they extend him and add some guaranteed money or maybe restructure? Because he's got a $27.4 million hit. That's a huge number. Matt Filer, I would think might be gone. He's a starting guard for them, but he's a guy. Like they'd save 6.5 cutting him. But they got a lot of big numbers, man. They got a lot of big numbers. Let's put it this way. I think the Chargers going forward are what they are. I think the days of them going out and signing a bunch of guys and being aggressive, that's over. That I think is over. Sure. So would you be surprised if Chiefs got rid of Spagnuolo? I just said, listen, I think if they play poorly down the stretch and they bomb out in the playoffs defensively, there's going to be a lot of pressure. I don't think they will fire him, though. No. So I guess I would be surprised. Mike says, don't we have MVS for 3 years? Yes, we do. Kyle's asking, does Mahomes and Burrow instant success make teams move off rookie QBs faster? If you're the Jets, do you want to waste another year with Wilson? Signing Jimmy G seems obvious. I think just the world we live in makes teams move off quarterbacks faster. There's more of a demand for right now. I think the game's easier for quarterbacks to come in and play. When I was a kid in the 90s, quarterbacks coming out of college, they do 15 passes a game. Everybody, teams would run the option and the wishbone, all this crap. Like now, everybody's throwing the ball over the field. I think it's easier to come in and to adjust to the NFL game than ever before. That being said, I think some of these guys having immediate success probably does raise some red flags a little quicker. But I think it's just easier now to decipher, like, okay, this guy can play or he can't play. There's not as big of a jump. Donald says, is Hardman back or out for another? My understanding when they put him on IR, I spoke to some sources around the team, and my understanding was they almost didn't even put him on IR because they thought he'd only miss a couple of weeks. They thought it would be the minimum at the time. I'll check back in this week. I haven't checked in yet. This week's just been kind of nuts. But at least a few weeks ago, they thought he could just come right back and play immediately. So let's put it this way. I will check in, but I would say that it's very possible he plays this week. All right. TJ, can we stop running the fullback dive on 3rd and 4th and 1? What, you don't love running straight into a line of people and when everyone on earth knows it's coming because it's the only time that Burton ever sees the field? You don't love that? Let's see. I'm going to mispronounce this. I'm sorry, but Elieser's awesome channel. Does Miami have a legitimate shot at beating the Bills this weekend? A shot, yes. Would I pick it? No. I think the Dolphins could win the game. I have a lot of reservations about that team in really cold weather, going up to Buffalo and finding a way to win that game. Tua's been rough the last couple of weeks, man. Like rough. I think it is possible. I don't think the Bills have exactly been a house of fire lately, but I'd give the Dolphins about 30% chance to win that game, something like that. All right. Matt, your top 5 tight ends of all time, and is Kelsey your number 1? Oh God, man, that's tough. Look, just off the top of my head, and if I had research time, I'd probably change this. In no order. Kelsey would be in there. Tony Gonzalez would also be in there. Shannon Sharp would be in there. John Mackey would be in there. And Gronk. Gronk's got to be in there. And, man, you could go – look, I mean, I didn't mention Mike Ditka or Ozzie Newsome or Kellen Winslow, or Antonio Gates. Would Kelsey be number 1 for me? If you're asking me for the most complete tight end ever, I'd say Gronk. If you're asking me for the guy, I need 100 yards in a game, who you want, Kelsey. Kelsey, to me, is the most devastating receiving tight end by a mile. I didn't think it's close. John, do you think we could go into Buffalo and win? Yes. Yes, absolutely. I'd choose going again. They play. Here's what I need to know. Did the Chiefs win or lose the turnover battle? And if the answer is win or even, I think, honest to God, I think they'd be anybody they play. Or at least could be anybody they play or have a great shot to do it. Yeah, I think the Chiefs going to Buffalo and win. I mean, the Chiefs are a cold weather team, too. I don't think the weather would bother the Chiefs. And God knows Mahomes could spin it through the wind. So that doesn't that really doesn't bother me at all. All right. Mighty, non-Chiefs related question, but what do you think about Jacksonville's playoff chances? I feel like they have a real shot at stealing the division. They're gonna have to pick off a win that I don't think we expect, right? Because they're 2 back, there's 4 to go. They just beat Tennessee, and they played Tennessee again the last week of the season. So essentially, they have to be within a game. Okay, that's all they got to do. They got to shave off a game over these next 3 weeks. Now, Jacksonville, I'm trying to do this off the top of my head. Jacksonville, I know, play Dallas this week. And then I know they play the Jets on a Thursday night in the Meadowlands. And then they play Houston again? Am I right? Yes, play Houston. So to me, I think Jacksonville could go 2-1. I think they will beat Houston. Can they split the Cowboys and the Jets? That's the big question. Now, the Titans game, looms large, of course, at the end of the year. The Titans, though, they play the Chargers, the Texans. It's possible, man. They play the Chargers, Texans, and Cowboys. So you need the Titans to probably go 1-2. Let's put it this way. Okay, let's assume both teams beat the Texans and lose to the Cowboys since they both play. Okay. Titans are at the Chargers. Jags are at the Jets. Can the Jags win that game? Do the Chargers handle the Titans? I'd give it a decent shot. I would pick the Titans to win the division, but I don't think it's crazy to say that it could go the other way. And by the way, here's a crazy thing for you. Jacksonville's 5-8. Their point differential, even. Dead even. Tennessee, 7-6. They're -35. -35. You get some weird point differentials this year, by the way. If you look around the league, everybody in the AFC East, every single one of them is a plus. Miami's only a +4. Everybody in the AFC South has a negative or is even. The AFC West, the only team with a positive is Kansas City at +86. The only team better than Kansas City in the AFC is Buffalo, 132. Cincinnati's +70, Baltimore's +51. And then the NFC, you got 3 teams that have huge plus differentials. Philly 138, Dallas 131, San Francisco 120. You want to know something nuts? 16 teams in each conference. Those 3 teams I just mentioned are the only teams in the conference that are more than +8. Seattle's +8, Detroit's +2. Everybody else is negative. That's wild. That is nuts. Gotta love the NFC, man. All right. Let me keep going here. Let's see. Just want to make sure I don't miss anybody. Matt, you were right. Furious George is coming out like Justin Houston's rookie year. Listen, I'm not always right. I'm wrong all the time. I don't like to take pride in being wrong, but guys, I told you with George Karlaftis, he's going to be a good player. That kid has a lot of talent. He works his ass off. He's a good player. I told you it was coming. It's arriving now. Karlaftis is really starting to show up. By the way, one thing with the Chiefs defense, and we are all rightfully annoyed at them at times, 42 sacks this year. Like, it's pretty good. I mean, and a lot of it's by committee. A lot of it's by committee. Clark has 4, Dunlap has 4, Snead has 3.5, remains a great blitzer. Karlaftis is 3.5, Saunders 2.5, Gay 2.5, and then, of course, Chris Jones with 11. The Chiefs have a lot of guys who at least are like a threat to get home. It's not the worst thing in the world. All right. Let's see. Let's see what we got here. Jerome, do you think 7-on-7 has really helped in the skill position on both O and D? Then Spags needs to get on board. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know that it makes a huge difference. I think, look, at some point it just becomes your scheme in these games and the way you prepare. I think that's the truth. Mike says, unpopular opinion, Frank Clark should be back next year. Maybe it is a cut and resign at a lower rate, but he has played well at times this year. We could do worse, and he eats a lot of double teams. Look, he's not coming back at his current salary. I mean, that's no way it's not happening. If Frank Clark's back next year, I'll be surprised. I think realistically, I mean, it would have to be something where they release him and he comes back for like $5 million a year. Like that'd be it. Because they saved $19 million cutting him. And he's getting cut for that $19 million bucks. Alex, what are your thoughts on people who think some games are rigged or pushed in favor of one team? I think those people wear too much tinfoil on their heads. I mean, it's just like, come on. Like the NFL cares. I mean, Mahomes is in friggin' Kansas City, which is look, I love Kansas City. Love it. It was just there. It's a great city. But my point is, like, he's not in New York. He's not in LA. He's not in Miami. He's in Kansas City. Aaron Rodgers is in godforsaken Green Bay. Like, and actually, again, I've been to Green Bay many times. I really enjoy the city, but it's not a huge market, right? So the NFL doesn't care about that stuff. The NFL is a drama unto itself every week, no matter how it unfolds. And it doesn't matter who's in what game or what the rating's going to be huge. Kansas City and Green Bay, especially Kansas City, in my opinion, great cities, fun cities, love it, but not big markets compared to all these other cities. And yet, I mean, I don't think the Chiefs are hurting for ratings when they're on national TV. Rex is saying, isn't Herbert's contract year next year? He is eligible for an extension this offseason. He's got 2 years left after this year, including his 5th-year option. Daniel, is Mahomes worried about getting hurt again? Clark not wanting to risk Mahomes. I mean, listen, I don't think you're ever going to see him do a quarterback sneak. But no, I think other than that, he's fine. Everything's okay. All right, Ronald. If we stay at the number 2 seed, do you care who we play in the wild card? Is there a team or two you'd rather avoid? I'd rather avoid the Chargers. That team's a pain in the ass for the Chiefs every time they play. They usually beat them, but they're a pain in the ass. And that team has major star power. Look, I respect the Dolphins. And I know all week long it would be the Tyreek Hill Bowl. Even though the Chiefs defensively against that team scare the hell out of me, I also think the Chiefs might hang 50 in that game. And my God, if you don't think Mahomes will be motivated in that game, like I just don't think Tua is going in there and win that game. I just don't at this point in his career. I think if you're the Chiefs, if you're the 2, you're praying you get like the Jets or the Pats or something, and especially, frankly, the Jets. The Pats, the one thing about them, they got really good edge rushers in Judon and Uche. They're really good. But I think if you get the Jets or the Pats, you're probably rolling. I just don't think those teams can score enough points to beat you. All right, let's see what we got. Mighty says Minnesota's like a -1 differential, I believe. They are fraudulent. I don't think Minnesota will make the second round of the playoffs if the Lions get in. That's a devastating team if they get a defense. If the Lions get a defense, they're a problem. Because the Lions have got guys for days on offense. They're actually really fun to watch. Let's see. Kyle says in the AFC, I'd pick the Chiefs because of Mahomes, but I think the Bengals are the best in my opinion. Defense is more trustworthy, not as sloppy with turnovers and penalties, more willing to run the ball. I would put it this way with the AFC right now. I think there are 3 teams everybody agrees are the 3 best teams. Okay, Cincinnati, Kansas City, Buffalo. Whatever order you want. I think of all those 3 teams, Cincinnati's the most consistent. I know what I'm getting with Cincinnati every week. I know every week what I'm getting from the Bengals. I think the highest ceiling of the 3 teams is Kansas City. If you said to me, in other words, if all 3 of them went out and played their best game, who wins? Even though I think the Chiefs are probably the least well-rounded of the 3 because of the quarterback and the coach when he has his game plan rolling. Like, I don't think the Bengals are hanging 44 on the Niners. The Chiefs can do that. Like, I would say the Chiefs are the highest ceiling. And I got to tell you, right now, of all 3, man, the team I'm the least high on is the team I picked to win the Super Bowl for the year. It's Buffalo. That Von Miller injury is a crushing injury. Now, I'm not saying that they can't win the Super Bowl. They certainly can. Could have won it without him last year. That is a big, big, big deal that he's hurt. There's a reason, guys, they paid him $120 million despite being 33 years old. They know how important he is, and he was great this year. Him not being there and being a leader in the playoffs or anything else, that is a major hit for Buffalo. So I think Cincinnati is the most consistent. Kansas City's got the highest ceiling. Buffalo's a big threat, but I would put Buffalo 3rd right now out of those 3 teams. That's just me. Short says, we are a small market, but must get good ratings considering this Texans game is being televised in the entire West Coast. Yeah, guys, because Mahomes. Everybody in the world wants to see him. Everybody wants to see him. Everybody wants to see that. The Chiefs are a rock band. Everybody wants to see the Chiefs. You ever notice how all the Chiefs travel now? Like as a kid, they never traveled well to Mile High or to Oakland. The Chiefs turn road games into home. Which, by the way, my God, you know what that place is going to be like at Houston this weekend? That's going to sound like Arrowhead. There's going to be nobody there as a Texans fan. Doug asked, Matt, what's your opinion on all the major injuries around the league? I think it sucks. Yeah, man. Absolutely. It does suck. I'm with you. All right, let's wrap it up here. And Doug, just kind of give you a little bit. Yeah, obviously it sucks. I mean, I think they got to get rid of these turf fields. I think it's number 1. And then I think a lot of it otherwise is unfortunately it's a game. It's just a game. I mean, that's part of it, unfortunately. It always will be with football. Injuries suck, but they happen. Alex, if you didn't cover the NFL, what do you think you'd be doing with your life? Nothing is fun. I was going to school when I got offered this job by Fanside 7.5 years ago. Which obviously my job has changed a lot in those years, but I was going to go to school, or I was going to school to be a high school history teacher. I originally went to school to be a broadcaster, a play-by-play announcer. And then by complete chance, as I was kind of waiting for that opportunity, fell into a job where I was covering high school girls basketball and just as a writer. And I loved it, the passion that high school kids had for sports. I remember I wasn't that far removed from high school myself. I played high school sports and I loved it. And then I became a beat writer for the American Hockey League's Binghamton Centers. And I just fell in love with it. And I just wanted to become as good as I could possibly be at it. And obviously still working toward that every day. But yeah, I would have been a high school history teacher. I think probably would have been the way I went. Would have been a coach. I worked toward a coaching minor in college. I love coaching. And then if the high school history teaching thing for whatever reason didn't work out, I'm sure I would become a police officer. I have a lot of family in law enforcement. I have a lot of respect for the job that the men and women in blue do. And my best friend in the world became a police officer, as his father was, and his father was. I probably would have just gone to the academy with him, honestly. So that said, while I obviously have tremendous respect for the teaching profession and in the law enforcement world, I'm glad I do what I do. I love what I do. Real quick here, Jonas, what is your favorite Mahomes moment of all time? His touchdown run against Tennessee in the AFC title game. That was that was unbelievable. And Ghostman, do you think smaller, faster edges are becoming more needed now with these QBs? Yeah, absolutely. QBs are more mobile. They're more athletic. You got to be more athletic, right? You got to match that. You got to mirror that. So yes, no question. The days of just standing in the pocket and patting the ball 3 times and throwing it, those days are toast. You've got to be able to move. If you can't, you're a dinosaur. But yes, I think teams are moving more toward these smaller, quicker fronts. And Dan Orlovsky had a great conversation about this on ESPN with, I think it was Marcus Spears. I think Ryan Clark was involved, maybe Mina Kimes. And so I'll parrot what they said, but to give them credit, they said this. So I just happen to agree with them. What you're going to see is you're going to have the run game start coming back, the power run game, because teams are going to say, you want to line up with a 280-pound D tackle and a 250-pound edge? Great. We're going to run you right over. And that cycle is going to start again. All right, hey guys, listen, thank you so much. Really appreciate everybody coming in, chatting it up, asking questions, just being active and being involved. I know this is not the typical week. Normally we do this on a Monday. Of course, we're doing it on a Wednesday this week. I will be back tomorrow to do the weekly shows I always do with Ben Heisler in the morning as we break down Chiefs Texans from a betting perspective. And then I'll be here with Patrick Allen to break it all down, the entire game on Thursday afternoon. So be here for that. And then guys, in full disclosure, I don't know what Sunday we're going to have coverage, of course, a halftime show, post-game show, might even have a pregame show. I think that's still being discussed. We'll have more information on that later in the week. I don't know if I'm going to be on the show on Sunday. I have to take a little bereavement, but it's possible. But I will be here for Thursday. So keep you updated. But thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate every single one of you for the Arrowhead Addict podcast. We will be back, and I will be back tomorrow. So take care until then. Look forward to chatting with you.